Hi guys, now my plan was on my trip to Sydney was to fly in all four classes with British Airways. Now I have a small confession to make. I didn't actually fly in economy and World Traveller. They upgraded me, and what was a man supposed to do? But I did take my camera, I did have a good look around, and I have flown in World Traveller a few times. So all four classes of British Airways, if your seat is in the upright position and your tray table has been secured, sit back and enjoy. Thanks for watching. Now, it's no surprise that World Traveller, economy class with British Airways, can be described as a snug fit. You do get 31 inches of legroom, you get 17.5 inches width. Configuration on these flights was 343, and that's pretty normal in World Traveller. Cabin baggage you can take on two pieces, a full cabin case and a laptop or a handbag, and check baggage up to 32 kilos. Do check on your individual flight. With British Airways to Brazil, you can actually have two check pieces of luggage. Now, as I said, the seats snug, but do, when you make your reservation, check with Seat Guru. There's a link in the description below, and there are some seats that offer extra legroom. This seat in particular goes right the way through. It's 3 seats and 2 seats in front, so you've got that extra legroom. On a flight, now on this flight I didn't actually fly economy. These pictures of food are from another economy class flight that I took to Sao Paulo. But on a long haul flight you should expect to be fed from the bar twice. You'll get a main meal and you'll probably get a snack before arrival. I'm a big fan of airline food. If it's not for you, it's not for you. But I have to say, I've always enjoyed my food in economy. Legroom, however, not so much. So perhaps it's worth looking at the other cabins depending on your budget. Now, the first thing for me to say about British Airways Premium Economy World Traveller Plus is I'm a big fan. I've flown it 3 times, and every time I've been very happy. So much so that when I was offered an upgrade from Premium Economy World Traveller Plus to Club World Business Class, flying from Sydney to Singapore at an upgrade cost of only £300, I actually turned it down. I checked that I got an empty seat next to me, and I thought, for £300, I'm going to be happier in Premium Economy. So that's what I chose. Now let's have a closer look and see what you guys think. Well, first things first, we're in our own smaller cabin, which is normally configured 242. The seat, of course, is a bit bigger. It's 18.5 inches wide as opposed to 17.5 in economy. And your pitch is 38 inches, and it does recline well with a footrest. I'm 5'11", have plenty of room on every flight. Your baggage allowance is doubled in the hold, although it is the same with in the cabin, your cabin bag and your handbag or laptop. Now, boarding the plane, we get a couple of the little premium treats. We get an amenities kit. You also get, very importantly, business class headphones. They're noise cancelling. They're pretty good. We get a nice blanket, and we also get a glass of bubbles on the tarmac. It's always a nice little treat. The seat itself, you can see we've got power points, we've got USB, and we've got a 10.6 inch screen, so that's a bit bigger than economy. And as you can see, the cabin is laid out very nicely. This to me is similar to many business class products I've flown on. And let's just do a like for like and go and have a quick look into the economy, into World Traveller. And you can see it's the smaller seat, the smaller screen, slightly bigger cabin. This is the 333 configuration on the 777. But we can see by the legroom that the seat itself in Premium Economy, it is a superior seat. And so much so that British Airways want to tell you all about it. You'll find a guide to the seat to use all the controls and get the best out of the seat. The tray table, I'm never a fan of tray tables in arms. They always seem a little awkward getting out. But this, as I guess it's a new product, still quite firm, but it's really only big enough to eat on or to work on. you're not really going to have room to manoeuvre with much else. Leg room of the seat, as I said earlier, I'm 5'11". I had plenty of room, especially on this flight where I actually had both seats to myself. So I had the middle table, where on this flight I chose an orange juice, so I wasn't really in the mood for bubbles that early. But on this flight I did have bubbles. I'm showing you both menus because I think both menus were great. This was Singapore to Sydney and also Singapore back to Sydney. So the food, as you're told, comes from the business class menu, and I certainly think it does. Not often do you get to say the words tenderloin of beef and economy in the same sentence. And that's exactly what I had on the flight going down to Australia. So I was very pleased with that. It is tray service. You're not going to get the linen and the crockery, but we do get good food. And the chocolate pudding was so good it deserves a gratuitous close-up shot. I really did enjoy that. Coming into land, got a snack on both flights. Just to give you an example, we had a vegetarian quiche, which was perfectly pleasant, but nothing to write home about. So all in all, with the quieter cabin, the superior seat, the extra leg room, the nice little treats, the bigger screen, the quality of the food, I say Premium Economy World Traveller Plus is well worth looking at as an option, especially on a longer flight. And now we get to the posh seats. This is business class, or in British Airways world, it's club world. And of course, in a premium cabin, you're going to pay a premium price. And is it worth it? In many ways it is. Of course, you've got a full flatbed. You've got the extra baggage. You've got your amenities kit. You've champagne on the tarmac. And you've British Airways wonderful service at another level. But there are some drawbacks to this cabin. Now, as I'm editing this film, the new cabins are rolling out, so I would strongly recommend that when you look to spend the premium money to go into the Club World class, if possible, do try and book your flight on the aeroplanes with the new Club Suite. I haven't been on one as of yet, but that will soon come. So do stay tuned to the channel for that, because that's not very far away. Okay, we've got our self-contained suite. And you can see we've got a tray table that moves into many positions. Wasn't particularly stable, but I didn't have any problems with it. We then have our flat screen, which comes out of the side of the sort of mini suite. And I think it was about 12 inches. Good British Airways entertainment, which is the same right the way through. On all cabins, it's obviously you just get a better screen. Okay, bags of leg room. And yes, the ottoman makes it a full flatbed. The ottoman is not to sit on, it is just to make the flatbed, as it tells you that clearly. And if you are flying and you want that sleep, then yes, of course, this is worth it. I'm going to come to the sleep bit in a moment, and you'll see why I had a few niggles and why I'm not sounding particularly ecstatic about which fundamentally was a wonderful, wonderful experience. Our controls, USB, power points, yes, as you'd expect in a business class cabin, they come as standard. We have a reading light up here, which we can go shiny and not so shiny, which of course is wonderful. Now, arriving on board, I'm greeted with a bottle of Harrogate spring water, and as I always bring my own, I've got plenty of water for the flight. And then a lovely glass of fizzy stuff and some warm nuts. Why not? Now, if you've enjoyed the video and you want to see more, I've got a great video coming up of how I went from silver to British Airways Gold in 2 weeks. Please do subscribe to the channel, and it'd be great if you rang the bell for more notifications. Now, one of the reasons that we're going to fly business class or Club World is for the food. And the food was first class. Beautiful salmon, excellent wines, and the linen on the table does make it a little extra treat in the air. Now, coming back to the flatbed, all the bedding is from the White Company, and so is the amenities kit, and it's first class. My problem was the person sat in the aisle had already gone to bed before I'd finished my meal. So I had to step over their legs if I wanted to use the bathroom. And also it was impossible for the cabin crew to help me make up my bed because they couldn't climb over the other guest. And therefore I made a bit of a pig's ear of making up my bed. However, I did get 5-6 hours good sleep. And I must say, the whole flight arriving, I was refreshed. So yes, it was worth it for that part of the experience. Waking up in the morning, breakfast, I had some lovely fresh fruit. I had a full cooked breakfast, which served on china with a mug of tea. I couldn't really fault it. I was a very happy boy. So would I fly business class again? Yes, but only in the new club suites. That's what I'd be looking for. If the bed is really important to you, then of course I recommend the business class Club World with British Airways. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to turn left. This is my flight from Singapore to London Heathrow, flying first class with British Airways, and I have to say I was blown away. The service was the best I've received in the skies and probably the best I've received anywhere on the planet. It was truly an outstanding experience. A fantastic suite, beautiful chair, amazing food, and you'll see all this as we go along. But let's have a quick look at some of the facts first. It's a 6'6" bed. It's huge. It's 22 inches wide. 1-2-1 configuration. And your baggage allowance is ridiculous. You've got 3 32 kilo cases. That's more than I've ever travelled with, and more than I ever will travel with. So let's have a look at the first class experience with British Airways. Of course, that doesn't start on the plane. It starts in the lounge, where you have a full a la carte service. This is the Singapore first class bar lounge in Changi Airport. So I started with some satay and then had a little steak sandwich, a nice glass of champagne, a glass of red wine. Beautiful relaxing environment before we get on the plane. And again, another relaxing environment. One thing I want to point out here, see the seatbelt? It's not to hold my headphones in place. It's because the ottoman in the first class seat is actually a seat itself. So if somebody wants to come and join you for dinner, they can come and join you for dinner. It's wonderful. And of course, champagne straight away. Laurent Perrier Grand Siècle, a beautiful prestige champagne. A first class amenities kit. Pyjamas are provided. I normally wear my own, so I took those away with me along with the amenities kit. We've got fantastic noise cancelling headphones. I normally take my own. I've got Sony noise cancelling headphones. These were far superior to mine, so that was pleasing. And of course, we've got some serious space. Legroom when you sat there, I don't care how tall you are, you're not going to be... you're not going to fill the space. It really, really is great. As you can see, my own pyjamas that travel with me regularly, as this is the only flight I've ever been on where I've been provided with pyjamas. The space, again, we've got this huge table, which, although pops up and out, was very firm. A couple of little niggles of wear and tear, but nothing that was going to put me off my flight. As you can see, the table itself is designed for two, so there's plenty of space if you're travelling on your own to use the table to eat and have your laptop open. And of course, you've got all this wonderful space around you. So we'll come to the food in a moment, but let's just have a look at the rest of this this area that I'm spending the next 12.5 hours in. Well, our enormous table folds back in and pops back into its place to give me even more space. And of course, that table moves so far forward that you can enter the suite, whether you've got full dining set up on there. It's quite easy for you to get out, and also if your guest was getting out, it can slide right back. So that's a very, very good design. As you can see from the video, it is a sturdy table. On the outside of your suite, is a wardrobe, and in your wardrobe, obviously, it's a great place to hang the jacket up, but also as your full bedding, and you do get full bedding, mattress, quilt, etc, etc. To your right, simple controls for the seat, lots of storage, which of course I fill up with all my gadgets, and now we can relax with a glass of wine, a few canapes, and let's start the dining experience. Easily the best in the air, and probably one of my top 5 enjoyable meals. I guess mainly because I was at 30,000 feet, 40,000 feet, but it was beautifully cooked, it was stunning service, and it just seemed to go on and on and on and on. I had the canapes, the starter, the main course, the cheese, I had my dessert, and then I relaxed with a coffee and a brandy, and the chocolates arrived. I really needed some exercise, but I wasn't going to get any for a few hours because it was time to get some sleep. I only had about 4 hours sleep. I was too excited to sleep through the whole experience, but I stopped for a cup of tea to keep me going before breakfast arrived. And what can I say about breakfast? A perfectly cooked breakfast. And look at that, a pot of tea at 40,000 feet. Yeah, I was a very happy boy. And first class, if you ever get the opportunity to do it, of course I recommend it. It was an absolutely amazing experience. The crew were fantastic, the food was amazing, the seat was brilliant. It was pretty much everything I dreamed it would be, and it was. Will I be doing it again? As soon as I've saved up the money. Yes, I will be doing it again.